The theme of our display is promoting regenerative farming in Hong Kong. I hope I am not incorrect to say that Hong Kong is not entirely unknown to the world, but we're always perceived as a densely populated metropolitan city, and a lot of people may have the impression that there is no such thing as farming in Hong Kong. The fact is that, right, farming is not an important dimension of our economy, but in terms of land use, 4.5% of our total regional area can still be classified as agricultural land. Of this limited area of one's farming land, quite a portion is not in use for anything for the time being, but there are still small farms scattered in the rural areas. HomelandGreen holds the belief that as soil regeneration has great potential for mitigated climate change, all land users still have the obligation to use the land, no matter how small a piece, for maximum carbon sequestration. It is for this reason that we take it as a mission to promote regenerative farming in Hong Kong. To begin with, here are a few words about who we are. HomelandGreen is a Hong Kong-based charitable organization established by a small group of volunteers on the 17th of June 2013, that is the World Day to Combat Desertification. Our motto is, be just to the earth for the sake of all beings. Facing all the global ecological crises threatening the balance of our ecosystem, we choose to work from the soil up. We take part in large-scale land restoration projects in Inner Mongolia and promote regenerative farming locally with a great potential for regenerating soil and mitigating climate change. By promoting, we mean we're trying to support local environmental conscious and open-minded farmers to transition into practices of regenerative farming to grow healthier crops free of pesticides, increase yield and income as a means for soil regeneration to address issues of food safety, food security, and climate change. We believe that these pioneering farmers, who also bring ecological benefits to the world, deserve better rewards than what they are having now. We are also trying to arouse public's awareness of issues related to food production and consumption, both locally and worldwide, and hope to solicit support to move Hong Kong towards greener consumption. So here is our story. We plan to start by sharing the stories of 3 farming partners of HomelandGreen. They are of different background, age, and experience, each at a different stage on the road towards regeneration. We documented, in the farmers' own words, the results and the progress made. So these farmers are respectively Eva, and then Farmer Chang, or we like to call him Chang Go, and then Alice. Then we will review the strategies we have adopted in the hope that we can get advice from international counterparts so that we can move faster and better, and of course, happier. So the first story is about Eva. I would like you to meet her. She has been a farming partner of HomelandGreen for about 3 months only. So I can only say that she's only going through the try and error stage. I must thank my partner Wendy for producing such a upbeat and exciting story about Eva. I hope Eva's story can serve as a snapshot of the things we're trying to do. I'd also like to report that since the making of this video, Eva has switched back to the quality compost we provide for her, and her crops are now thriving well and strong with good harvest. The next farmer I would like you to meet is Farmer Zheng. Farmer Zheng Guo has been our partner for 30 months, so we will present his story with a little bit more details. Farmer Zheng is one of the few pioneers ventured into the organic certified farming about 19 years ago. He adheres strictly to the regulations for the organic certified farms. His farm is chemical-free. Things were fine at the beginning, but gradually, year by year, he saw increasing pest-induced loss in yield. Learning of his condition, HomelandGreen decided to explore with Farmer Zheng if regenerative farming is a way out. 30 months after the collaboration with HomelandGreen, Farmer Zheng shared his observations at the site of the second experimental field run a year ago. I think you have just heard him reporting that the soil quality was very much improved. The celery just harvested was of exceptional high quality. And then the choy sum takes shorter time to be ready for harvest of good quality as well. Farmer Zheng then revealed the overall changes he saw in his farm after these 30 months of collaboration with us. The first thing is that there is reduced input and less fertilizers used. He's now having higher gain, higher yield. And the need for weeding is very much reduced. And then pest-induced loss, again, is very much reduced. He also saw higher market demand and a better consumer satisfaction. Farmer Zheng told us the story that he has almost spent all his savings in this farm, almost losing money for the past 19 years until about 1.5 years ago, where he began to make profit. And last year was the first time that he made profit since practicing regenerative farming. I think it's the passion of the farmer that keeps him going, even though he has lost all his reserves because of the pest-induced loss. He's now ready to advise newcomers to work from the soil up and protect soil with mulching, living roots, and compost. Besides the positive results, here are the changes in Farmer Zheng's farming practices now. He feels now must continuously adapt and change. And he keeps testing to find the best possible practices. He recognized now the importance of mulching. And the one thing Farmer John spent time in exploring is that he's testing out to find the best composition of companion plantings that can suit Hong Kong weather and soil. You see here that Chango is particularly happy with his experiment of companion planting, growing cherry tomato with zucchini. And later you are going to see the result of his zucchini. Experienced farmers will share with you that it is rather difficult to grow zucchini in Hong Kong weather. And the leaf is intact, will bake, and the fruits are. And now he has the practice of always covering his soil with living roots and try to introduce biodiversity as much as possible. Chango is now ready to share his story in public, and he is working hand in hand with HomelandGreen to take regenerative farming to the next level. At a great farm feast to promote local produce to high-end consumers, Chango was featured as an advanced thinking green farmer on the brochure cover. So what exactly did HomelandGreen do to bring such changes in Chango's farm? Actually, through farm visits, HomelandGreen observed that pest-induced yield loss is a common sight. One possible reason is that organic farmers in Hong Kong only know they're supposed to stay away from chemicals, but looking after soil health and plant health and the relationship with the nutritional integrity of plants are not within their knowledge arena in general. The first step HomelandGreen has taken to become a collaborative partner with Chango was to arrange an evening of orientation for Farmer Zhang and his partners. It was an evening of carefully designed shop talks, workshops, demonstration, discussion, etc., to build up trust and credibility. We then assure the farmers that a zero-risk approach will be adopted as HomelandGreen committed to bringing all the necessary material and human resources. HomelandGreen then recruited volunteers and provided them free training to work in an unused section of the farm without interfering with the farmers' routine work. Farmer Zhang can just observe and pick up whatever new ways of practice he feels comfortable. Besides basic soil and plant science, practical skills and new measuring tools are also introduced. Simple instruments like the bricks meter to be used as an indicator of the photosynthetic effectiveness of the plant is always introduced, and then compost making is always a must. We then ran our first experimental plots between January and May of 2019. What we experiment there are we collect baseline data about the soil, the compaction level, And then we did plant observation, and then we clear up possibly ecologically unhealthy areas. And we save materials for compost making. And then we deliver suitable materials for mulching. And mulching will be used for soil protection and weed control. Volunteers all know that compost will be used as soil amendment, and there will be minimal soil disturbance. Compost tea will be used as biological inoculant. And in addition to compost tea, we also use foliar spray for plant nutritional management. It is for this reason it is very important farmers to learn to read the signal from the plants. We also share with Farmer Zheng the importance of monitoring humidity and pH of the soil. All the plots are always covered with living roots. And heavy mulching proved effective in weed control. In our experimental plots, we also try out different composition of companion planting. There are always field observations where we share with the volunteers the progress we have made, and then we hold meetings for review. Jungle also taught volunteers valuable planting skills for specific plants, and he is a very experienced farmer. During the same period, we saw the gradual improvement in the health and quality of products in Changgo's own plots. He decided on his own the new practices he'd like to adopt. We see worms coming back to the experimental plots, and then when the annual rainy seasons began, we find that the soil compaction level has been very much improved, and flooding was not that serious as in other plots. We suggested to the farmers that during rainy season, he can try use cover plots. By the time the first phase of experiment finished in May, we have several harvests in each plot, including all the common leafy greens and then common root plants, with no pesticides, herbicides, weeding, or tillage. Sugar was suggested to plant more perennial cash crops to improve the soil further. And then when we visited the plot in March 2021, the wolfberries stood strong and healthy. By sharing the story of Changgo, the message we want to share with other farmers is that our efforts to support local environmental conscious and open-minded farmers to transition into practices of regenerative farming to grow healthier crops free of pesticides, increase yield and income as a means for soil regeneration to address issues of food safety, food security, and climate change has proved to be worthwhile. We believe that these pioneering farmers, who also bring ecological benefits to the world, deserve better rewards than what they are doing now, and HomelandGreen will continue to work towards this goal. The story of Alice is different from that of Eva and Changgo, as she is new to the farming community. And this account depicted in the story is not that of changing practice, but of directly applying the science and practice of regenerative and nutritional farming to a piece of uncultivated land and turned it into a regenerative farm. The result is also very convincing. And so the young lady is now using her farm and experience to promote regenerative farming among her peers and workmates. Different soil amendments are used for different plots. More mature compost was first directly used to support those fruit-bearing crops, and then radish with big fat root. Nutritional supplements are used to help crops through the initial infant stage. And that this is really a happy experience for first-timers who started the plot all from scratch.
驚肥啊，長過塊面啊！大家快啲嚟炆蘿蔔啦，拎翻去做蘿蔔糕。
So the farmer brings home to the mom, who will teach her how to make traditional radish cake just in time for the New Year celebration. Companion planting helps increase biodiversity, also builds up richer soil. And before enough compost is ready for use, again, cover crops are used. And then at our next video, Alice spoke of her experience and learning during the period she came to make compost at HomelandGreen. After her graduation,
有做開熱堆肥嘅，直接攞完成咗嘅堆肥返學校做實驗咁樣咯。咁之後有朋友知道呢度做緊熱堆肥嘅，咁我就自己好想試下真係自己點樣去做啊，收集一啲乾葉啊或者新鮮嘅草啊，同埋廚餘。 或者係啲 yard waste 咁樣，就覺得好犀利咯。同埋佢一嚿咁大嚿嘢，佢係可以從啲廢物轉化成一啲有用嘅嘢，即係佢可以放落泥土度啊，做一啲改善嘅物質咁樣咯。好似係我其實好似參與緊一啲生產咁樣咯，係啦。其實我已經慢慢越嚟越覺得。 即係種植啊，或者係食物生產耕田啊，唔係話讀唔成書就返鄉下耕田咁簡單咯。即係其實農夫係識得最多嘢，或者其實佢係要知道天氣啦，要知道泥土啦，要知道唔同種類嘅植物要點樣生啦咁樣。咁而家更加知道嘅就係、點樣即係泥土好重要咯，你要保育好泥土先至可以生到健康嘅作物出嚟咁樣咯。越知得多就覺得越知得少。
HomelandGreen sponsored Alice to attend the first Living Soil Symposium in Montreal, Canada in 2017, because I want these young farmers to learn from the leading masters in regenerative farming and climate change mitigation. Alice continues to learn more of the science and practice of regenerative farming through volunteering as teaching assistant at HomelandGreen workshop. As things never just happened overnight, so in the following, we will go back to the beginning of our story to say something about how our journey to promoting regenerative farming in Hong Kong was started in 2015. Actually, we used altogether 13 strategies to get it going. The first one is that we decide to equip ourselves and learn from the leading masters in the field of farming from the soil up, later known as regenerative farming. Some of you who are familiar with the masters will recognize all the different faces, like Dr. Yiling Ingham, and then Don Huber, and then the various books in Chinese and English and so on. Our second strategy is that we reach out to the public to raise awareness about the relationships between soil health, planet health, and human health through talks to different audience with different backgrounds in different settings. And then we walk our talk by setting up thermal compost sites with recycled natural materials and teach about thermal composting. And we solicit support from environmental groups along the way. We also visit local conscientious farmers to understand the potential obstacles for them to transition into more regenerative way of farming. And then we invite our overseas professional partner to offer free training on regenerative farming to experienced local farmers. We also cultivate young minds by sponsoring young environmentalists for overseas training like Alice in regenerative farming as incentives for the longer-term commitment to our cause. We involve better informed farmers as teaching assistant at HomelandGreen workshop as continuous professional training, so that in this way, we can build up a semi-professional training team. We run free workshops for local farmers on various themes of regenerative farming and provide consultancy service within our resource capacity. Here is an example of a free workshop given in 2021, where we introduced the microbiometer. Even though the COVID-19 has plagued a large part of our daily lives, but our volunteers were not deterred. They took all the precautions and we were determined to learn more about regenerative farming within regulatory limits during this difficult time. A revision of basic principles usually precedes field study and practice. The foremost task is to learn to read from plant performance about the health, conditions, and that of the soil. Besides observations, farmers were introduced to newly developed affordable testing tools to know more about the crops, the soil, and the things they put in. And the focus of this workshop is in the use of a handy microbiometer, which gives relative readings about the quality of compost soil, compost feed, etc. Very clear instructions were given in the kit, and included in the kit are all small tubes. Even a small mixer is provided for thorough stirring of the soil sample and the test reagent. We demonstrated that every minute step has to be strictly adhered to. A drop of sample solution is put on the test card, and then a test card is then scanned with the app downloaded to a smartphone, and results can then be stored for follow-up monitoring. The volunteers showed much interest in the interpretation of soil microbes data and crop performance. Many questions were raised, and that is why we think for the training, field work is very, very important. We also use the microbiometer to test the quality of the compost made earlier by the farm owner. But this time, besides direct observations like smell, color, texture, and humidity, we use the microbiometer. And we also check the tea brewed with the compost. And reading from the test card came out quickly, so that relative quality of the soil, compost, and compost tea can then be compared using the chart of international standards provided. And with more data, farmers will learn how not to use fertilizers or pesticides casually like before. And then it gives incentives to farmers as the input can be lowered while revenue increase. Our ninth strategy is to run small-scale trials in schools. We help run regenerative farming programs for school kids with the support of trained volunteers as preparation for collaborative partnerships with local farmers to manage their transition to regenerative farming. And we're saying that teaching soil health to kids from the early age help their more scientific, thorough understanding of the relation between soil health and plant health. And then we form collaborative partnership with farmers, and then we adopt a zero risk approach to help responsive farmers to transition into the practice of regenerative farming to build up long-term partnership. We involve also these collaborative farmers as co-trainers. And so they are involved in our public talks and promotional programs. We reach out more through social media and networks. So we have our HomelandGreen website, our HomelandGreen Facebook, where we produce videos of regenerative farming workshops and experimental farms. We also produce videos on large-scale land recovery projects we're involved in. And then we also produce videos on translation work from reputable open source on the science and practice of regenerative farming for the purpose of knowledge dissemination. And then finally, we reach out to the international counterparts. We join memberships of international organizations with coherent missions as HomelandGreen, like the French 4,000 Initiative, Regenerative International. We also seek to reach out for research partnership for more scientific documentations of the process and results of our experimental work, and incentive system where farmers' contribution to ecological benefits can be rewarded. For the latter, we are happy that we have been approached by specific organizations, and such partnership is under exploration. HomelandGreen members join membership of the Soil Science Society of America for our continuous professional development. So, what next? A better tomorrow, of course. We look forward to an even happier trip with more partners, more resources, more learning opportunities, more supporters, and more successful experiences to continue to heighten our spirit and keep our momentum. Thank you very much for joining us today.